I'd like to open up for questions to anyone who would like to ask them. And again, there are a lot of, we've gone over a lot of information today. Robert Land meets the criteria for the child care if your child is under the age of 16. If your child has a learning disability, it meets the medical expense tax credit, which again can be as high as $8,400 for your child. It also meets the criteria if you own a business or the company you're working with will establish a health and welfare trust to put the tuition and all the related costs, meaning your transportation, their transportation, hotels, if you have to stay in a hotel to take your child home. It covers all that. It meets that criteria. And if you do that, then your child or you will be eligible to reclaim tax back from the government in the form of the disability tax credit, and that will make you eligible, or your child eligible, for the registered disability savings plan. And when they turn 18, they will be eligible for the Ontario Disability Support Payment. And most importantly, why I believe it's important that whatever you decide, whether your child goes to Robert Land or not, or whether you are on the fence about doing this. After I left Robert Land and after I finished high school, I was very, very fortunate because of the documentation that had been acquired during my growing up. When I went to university, I went to York University that had the first learning disability program in the entire country. And what I was given extra time and I was given assistance, and it was very helpful when I went through university. Now, every university has that. Every college has that now. But you have to have the proper documentation. So if you want your child to go and get the most out of their education, both at Robert Land and afterwards, it's worth the time to spend to get the proper documentation and get it in now, then because you're going to have to do it later.
So Peter, we do have a question that someone sent
yes.
in, if I may. It says, is this only for Canadian citizens, or can I benefit from this as an international student parent?
Which country are they coming from?
I don't have that, and but in general, are you aware of, let's say it's from the United States, for example, or somewhere else? Jordan, actually, I think is where the person indicated.
See, I don't know the tax laws in Jordan. That's something you're going to have to find someone in Jordan who has that, who has a tax understanding and because the money is actually being earned and being paid from Jordan.
Okay.
I know in the United States there are similar programs.
Okay. Next question is, if the psychologist report says that their child has a learning disability issue, is that proper documentation?
That is proper documentation. In addition to that, we will assist in making sure that you obtain the proper documentation, what type of letters that need to be documented to be able to receive these tax benefits and also these write-offs.
Okay. We are. If there's anyone else out there that does have a question, please feel free to type that into the question box. What I will say is that, as I mentioned earlier on in the webinar, we are recording this webinar, and so long as technology cooperates with us, we'll make every effort to make this available to individuals through our website and our Facebook page. Some of this information is currently available, or at least links to this information is available through our website. And the place to find that from our website is if you navigate to our admissions page, and there's a link to school fees. And about 3/4 of the way down, there's a section called Frequently Asked Questions, and the question asked is, are tuition payments tax deductible? Within that link, we do touch on many of these items: the child tax credit, child care expense, disability tax credits, et cetera. And we do have links to some of the Revenue Canada interpretation bulletins there. So to save you a bit of time and make it easier for you, those downloads are available. As well, there's a section on Health and Welfare Trust with some of the related bulletins and contact links for Peter Merrick should you have further questions for him. I know that he would be happy to answer any questions and help you through some of this.
Alan, are there any other questions?
I think that seems to be it, Peter. So if you'd like to wrap up, then we'll. Let me ask one more question that just came in. It says, do you know if the Canadian Armed Forces has an employer offers the Health and Welfare Trust? And number two, what if your income is gross $55,000 and not $80,000? Is there a place where I can do this on my own?
Okay, one thing I do want to address. I most likely the armed force, like the Canadian government, will not establish a health and welfare trust for an individual. A lot of private corporations will, especially if because it doesn't really matter to them because it's just a form of compensation. Instead of I pay you salary, I pay it in a health and welfare trust. To them, it's just it's just a way of compensation. However, for the individual who asked that question, they are still eligible. They're still eligible to go for the medical expense tax credit and to receive a deduction on their income tax. In addition to that, they are eligible to get the disability credit, tax credit, refundable tax credits. Those are still available, the RDSP and the ODSP. Those are available. The only thing that's not available to them is the Health and Welfare Trust. Everything else is available to them.
Right, and I will say that for those families who are going the route of the as a medical tax credit that you apply for on your own, one of the things that you most likely will require, either upfront or if Revenue Canada comes back and questions your claim, it will require more information about our program here at Robert Land Academy. And you should provide as much as you can, whether it's for brochures or from our website. But typically, what clients will do is they will contact me and let me know and request the letter that I spoke to earlier, and that's a personalized letter, individualized letter based on your son's specific needs, and that's something that we will produce and forward to you that you can include with your tax return or to Revenue Canada if required. So
can I just point something out on that, Alan? Because I've been involved on both sides, both the medical expense tax credits and the Health and Welfare Trust. And the big issue that everybody faces, whether they have a developmentally disabled child, autism, or whatever, Revenue Canada, when your tax return goes to a local office, and 9 times out of 10, if you're going to be putting through an expense like this much, they will reject it, and they will require more information, and it's a headache. A Health and Welfare Trust, what happens is the corporation gets deducted, and you're paying the trustee to deal with Revenue Canada, and in essence, it's seamless. So I'm just sharing with you streamlining it, because for any of you who've ever tried to run through a large expense through a medical expense tax credit, you could probably, you've been required to provide additional information and to wait months and months for rulings. And a lot of times it's because you're not dealing with the right people, because they're not used to dealing with someone putting through a tuition for a private school, especially of this magnitude.
Peter, if I can wrap up with one last question that came in, and then we'll head off. It's from a parent of a new student at Robert Land Academy who, I think understandably, if they're going to go the route of claiming the fees for this coming year, that's one thing. But is there recourse for those parents to, let's say, go back to previous tax years if they have expenses under this mechanism to do that?
Well, the thing is, they might be able to go back 1 year. They might be able to go back to January, like they might be able to go to January of last year.
Right.
To run through most of the expense, three quarters of the tuition through the Health and Welfare Trust. because you can't, because right now we can date the trust starting January 1st. We can't go back further than that. So
Okay.
anybody who's gone to Robert, anyone who's sent their boy to Robert Land in the past, you'd be able to run that through. Now, let me just explain something. It's not insurance, so it's almost a debit account. You have to put money into the account to get the money back. But what we do, and we've done this a number of times with Robert Land, if a health and welfare trust is established, the money goes into the trust, and the money for your child is directly wired to Robert Land Academy, and that happens streamlessly. That's really the way we do it, right, Al? That's the way it's been done before.
Yes, that's correct.
And it's streamlined. They get the documentation. You just give, and if they need more documentation, you just let Robert Land know that they can speak to the trustee, and it's seamless. So that's able to do. So if anybody has any questions about any of those benefit plans that the government offers, I can put you in contact with a lawyer who specifically deals with that. And if you're interested in exploring the health and welfare trust, that's something that can be set up within days for you. And if you haven't paid the tuition yet, then you can establish the health and welfare trust with the proper documentation being a letter from a psychologist or from a doctor stating your child has a learning disability and specifically recommending Robert Land. You can have it done within the week, and you've got that huge deduction for your corporation.
Okay. Peter, with that, I'd like to thank all of our guests for attending today's webinar. I know that there's a tremendous amount of information, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. So at any time, if you do have questions on this, please feel free to contact Peter. His contact information is on the screen there for you now. Certainly these links and links to some of this information and some of the Revenue Canada interpretation bulletins are available on the Robert Land Academy website. And with some luck, as I said before, we hope to make this webinar available through our website. Check under the news articles, under the school fees section, and also on our Facebook page. We tend to post new articles and new happenings frequently on our Facebook page. So if you check in there, it's most likely to hit that. And lastly, I'd like to thank you, Peter Merrick from Merrick Wealth, for being with us again and lending your time and expertise here today. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you so much, Alan.